And you have to understand that and be willing to go through seasons where you're more connected or less connected or more in sync or less in sync or literally need space from one another.
Right.
If you're projecting to have a relationship for the rest of your life, or in their case for
many
eternity,
lives, yeah.
right, then that's the ticket, baby. Like, I'm not saying necessarily get a house in Tangier and one in Detroit, but space.
But you might need that, you might need that. Yeah.
The Articulate Coven is the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, The Vampire Chronicles, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and The Immortal Universe from AMC and AMC+.
Welcome to The Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are The Articulate Coven. Ashley, it's a movie night.
It is, and a very good movie night.
It was such a good movie.
I fucking love this movie. Number one, I can't believe I haven't seen it before. That's absurd. And where have I been and what was I doing when I should have been watching this movie?
I don't know. I'm so with you. This thing's been out for more than a decade now. This came out in first of all, we are the unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal Universe, including Interview with the Vampire, Mayfair Witches, the forthcoming Talamasca series from AMC, but also all of the books and the previous movie adaptations of those books and the whole nine yards. We cover it all. And
we do.
We're expanding outside of Anne Rice's specific world to movies in particular. I've been so proud of our movie choices so far because I do think all of them have been
worthy
in a conversation with Anne's work, right? Like the Lost Boys we talked about, I think both was influenced by some of Anne's work, and yet I think it influenced maybe a little bit of the Lestat portrayal in Vampire Lestat. And then you go back and you look at things like this, where we're going to talk about it, but both of these vampires are like very clearly coded for Anne's works.
Yes, they could so easily exist in that world. That was something I was like, these are totally vampires we know. Like, we know these guys.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so we're talking about Only Lovers Left Alive tonight from 2013. Jim Jarmusch directed, starring Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston. I don't know why I kept wanting to call him Huddleston a couple of weeks ago when we first talked about this,
and also Tom.
I called him Timmy. I called him all sorts of stuff. I call him Pretty. He looks so good in this movie.
He is very emo, very kind of sad boy.
Okay, so before we get to the new stuff, I want to get to a couple of follow-up questions, and I'll try to put these into the video as well. These are comments. I think all of these comments come from the YouTube channel. Lenora Grace, this was on our last book club episode. We've been talking about the Vampire Lestat. Our last episode was about parts 6 and 7. Next week, you'll get the epilogue from the Vampire Lestat, which covers his version of Interview with the Vampire, basically. And then also it's some modern day stuff, 1985 in the book. That stuff's him as a rock star. It's, Dionysus in San Francisco. So we're going to cover those epilogues next week. But last week we were talking about TVL part 6 and 7, and Lenora Grace says, no shade given, but I called it Sam Hain, that they danced the Sam Hain with the Roman vampires, right? Okay, they say it's not pronounced that way. It's pronounced Sawain.
Yes.
I know Gaelic is weird. Loving the book review, reminding me of what happened in the novel before season 3. And I said, no shade at all. Ashley and I are very open about coming from rural communities where we read many more words than we heard spoken aloud for
100%.
most of our lives. So we'll mention this the right way in the next episode. So Sawain, except...
Yes.
Dum dum dum. There's more.
Actually, there's another correction. What's correction corner there?
Let's see. Possible addendum to the correction, also with zero shade. In most forms of Irish, it's Samhain, first syllable to rhyme with how. So Samhain. Source: 13 years learning Irish in school. It's our name for the month of November as well as the feast of Halloween. Okay, so I didn't know that Samhain is the whole month of November.
I didn't know that either.
No.
See, we learn here, kids. Like, we learn things.
So, that's what I said in response. So Lenora says, Lady Dynamite says, Lenora, I'm also not shading you. You might be using Scots Gaelic, which the Sam Wayne, the first pronunciation would be the way to do it. But look, I've made this joke before, but we call this the articulate coven because you all are very, very smart, but we are articulate as a coven, not individually necessarily, right? It's a collective knowledge.
Yeah, we get there collectively.
So thank you for those corrections, and keep them coming. Anytime we do something like that, it is
God,
almost always just because Ashley and I haven't said it out loud enough in our life, probably.
My God, 100%.
Okay, so let's get into this movie because there's a lot to talk about, and it is so well done. Again, from 2013, you'd think you and I have had a decade to watch it. Both of these actors are actors we like.
Yeah, it's so weird, and it's vampires. What the hell?
I don't know Jim Jarmusch that much at all. I know, like, he's got a Coffee and Cigarettes, I think, is him. I think that was, like, the big hit for him, the big hit. He's a very indie filmmaker. Yeah. And I'm fairly certain he's made, since this movie, I think he's made a zombie movie and maybe a werewolf movie, too. I want to say his werewolf movie has Adam Driver as the lead. I seem to remember there were two, I'm fairly certain anyway. There were two werewolf projects that came out like right beside each other. One is based on like the video game and the parlor game that you play, like Werewolf or whatever, where it's sort of like Mafia, where you're like the hidden. It's Among Us, basically. If you've ever played Among Us, it's the same thing, but we've been playing it for, generations. Anyway, I think one of them is basically based on that game, and then the other one was the Jim Jarmusch project, and I want to say it's Adam Driver and Bill Murray, but don't hold me to that. Anyway, it's my own fault. As a movie buff, he's somebody I've got a hole that I need to fill, honestly, because I really enjoyed this. What did you think?
This was, oh my God. It's so like atmospherically just kind of moody and awesome and interesting, and it's sexy and it's clever and witty. It was a bunch of different things that I wasn't expecting. I don't know what I was expecting at all. But I loved it. This is the most like normal I've ever seen, a normal of a character I've seen Tilda Swinton play. It was just like, it was very interesting to just see her. Like, to me, this was like a love story that just happened to have vampires in it. It definitely didn't, it wasn't about being, the movie wasn't about being a vampire. It was about existing. And I mean, if in that, there's the whole question of like, you have this eternal life and how does that feel? And what kind of depression does that put you in through? So in that way, we've got vampiric stuff, but they're not like eating people, they're not. So it's a very different vibe for a vampire movie. But it very much just felt like, to me, I was like, I'm watching a love story about a depressed man and a woman who loves him very much. And then they talk to their best friend sometimes.
It's okay. More than anything, and this is in my notes later, but this movie is about addiction, right? Yeah. This is about being in love with an addictive personality, and how do you help them cope through their life, right? Yeah. And it's clear to me, anyway, that Adam, the Tom Hiddleston character, has been like, blood is obviously the addiction that's at the center of the film, right? But like, he's been addicted to music. I think he's been addicted to this concept of leaving his stamp on the world. Like, that's the thrust. That's the biggest problem for him, I think, here. The reason why he's contemplating suicide. I think it's because, which is interesting because that's a very Lestat trait, even though I think, and let's talk about this up front. It's interesting to me because Tilda Swinton is very much the Lestat character in this relationship, and Louis is Tom Hiddleston's character, Adam. They even look like one of is blonde and tall, and one of them is sort of like wan and dark. And sad. Yeah. But they make the Louis character the rock star, which is interesting. Except he's a rock star who can't have anything published because he doesn't want to be tracked down by the groupies, right? Obviously, of course not. So, like, what a problem to have. And it's something that Lestat deals with, I think, sometimes in the books. The idea of, like, okay, so maybe I've discovered a purpose for me on a day-to-day. Like, that's his grand plan in TVL, which we've been talking about, right? Is, like, what is my purpose? What's our place in the universe? And what do we do as vampires to mean anything? But specifically, I think he wonders, like, I want my existence to matter. I need to. So that's why he tries to wake up Akasha. That's why he becomes a rock star eventually and writes his novel.
Well, and he loves attention. I mean, that is like our guy there. He really loves attention. a little bit of a attention whore, you know.
Okay.
You know, and I think that the addiction thing, I really, really felt very real when the sister shows up too. Like that's when I was like, oh man, they're looking at her and talking to her like she's a junkie, you know, like.
Well, there are levels, right? Because Tilda, Eve, the Tilda Swinton character, also deals with this, and especially towards the end when their supplies run low, it's like it's a problem for her. But she seems to have a Zen method for her life that she just deals with everything. And Adam, meanwhile, is like literally riding this high and low of whether he's getting it or not. Yeah. And then, but still, he's like classy about it, right? Like I keep my shit in check. I don't like show out at the corner store. Right. But then the sister-in-law, or it's basically his sister-in-law. That's what I was like, God, family is the worst, right? But yeah, the sister-in-law comes in and she is uncontrolled and such a mess.
Just
and
chaos.
It doesn't even when they give her, and that's, I thought like the doling out of the blood is so interesting because I mean like, I've never had a substance abuse, but I know people who have, and I've watched them bargain, right? Well, I'll only take 2 bumps. How about just 2 bumps,
just
right?
2,
like not
just
a whole
little
line, just a toot, just a little something.
A little pick
anyway. So this is like very clear. I've never known an H train rider like intimately, but this is heroin coded, right? This is very much heroin coded. The way that they respond to it, the way that it overtakes them in the moment. I love now we're skipping ahead. Let's go back and talk about the film specifically.
Yes.
This opening shot is so good. It opens and it fades into the spinning starlit sky, and then that turns into the turntable, and then the turntable turns into an overhead shot of Tilda in her room listening to the music, and then that fades into Tom in his room listening to his music. It's so damn good.
It was really good. It was really cool. It shows immediately, like, it literally is showing us a cosmic connection between these characters. You know, like, it's just right off the bat, it's like, these two are connected through an otherworldly kind of thing, you know?
Just super surprised by the cast all the way through it.
And
I mean, I knew I had seen a bunch of names, but I tried not to pay much attention.
Yeah, I didn't. I really
until we got into it.
I did the same. I didn't really dig around about this one because it was cool. This is the one that we didn't really know anything about going into. So I wanted to kind of keep it that way. Yeah. Jeffrey Wright is in this. I love him. He's great.
And so a small role, but great.
Mm-hmm,
John Hurt is the one that I was going to start with. So John Hurt plays Christopher Marlowe.
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorite vampire tropes, by the way. I love when there's like a famous writer or a famous whatever that secretly is a vampire the whole time and maybe has been different versions of themselves.
Well, and my favorite part of this particularly is that you mentioned earlier, it's not really about a vampire movie. It's two lovers. It's like a depressive lover, and how do you help them cope with life as it goes on. It's about, I think there's something to this about like just long-term marriage, right? Like you've been in you've been with your partner longer than I've been with mine, but when you get over that first decade, you look back and you're like, oh, there are literally phases and stages to this thing. And you have to understand that and be willing to go through seasons where you're more connected or less connected, or more in sync or less in sync, or literally need space from one another.
Right.
If you're projecting to have a relationship for the rest of your life, or in their case for
many
eternity,
lives,
right? Then that's the ticket, baby. Like, I'm not saying necessarily get a house in Tangier and one in Detroit, but space.
But you might need that, you might need that. Yeah, that's a long time. That's a long time. And sometimes I think you go through seasons where if you were a normal couple, you might get divorced. But instead of that, you go take a break. You're like, I'll go over here, you go over there, and we think about what we've done. We come back as better people in like 20 years or so, like they get a chance to kind of really work through their problems.
So the movie is really about that. It's about that relationship, and it's just like this intimate little, like it's like a bedroom drama, right?
Yeah,
except they want to make the bedroom drama about vampires. So here's the shorthand. They're like, oh, their buddy is Christopher Marlowe. Yes, Christopher Marlowe. And now like we establish these are hundreds of years old. And first of all, they never go further than that. We think Adam and Eve are both older than Kit, but it's not clear. Like, it seems like they were both vampires before Christopher Marlowe was born. Was he wasn't a vampire when he was, well, we'll get to that in a minute too. But anyway, that they just used John Hurt and that character of Marlowe as shorthand. And I immediately thought to myself, boy, if I ever told a story about the supernatural, I think it would be like a small intimate affair like this. And that's the ticket. Like, you just put Shakespeare in it, or Aristotle, or whatever, right?
Right.
Or Tesla.
And that sets it in whatever, that gives it some historical age too, which is fantastic. You get an idea of, at least an idea of how long they've all been alive.
Well, and we should go ahead and talk about it here too. So Christopher Marlowe wrote all of Shakespeare's works in this universe too.
I love it.
Okay, I am not a Shakespeare conspiracy person in the real world. I think there was a guy, his name was William Shakespeare. He wrote these works. They're amazing, and it's one of those things. It's like, hey, there are once in a generation minds. And I also think, like any artist, particularly in theater, particularly in that time period, he was a collaborative artist,
100%.
right? So there were influences, and Marlowe was one of those, no doubt.
Yeah.
So was Ben Jonson, and he hated that motherfucker.
Well,
but anyway,
you get that, like, it's like, what's the phrase I'm thinking of? Where two people might write a joke that's very, very of the same ilk, and it's just because of their similar life experiences. It's not, nobody stole the joke. No one stole the joke from the other person. You just happen to have had a similar experience, and therefore this joke is similarly written. I think that happens. That's like a very normal, natural thing to happen in writing or in anything creative like that.
100%. And by the way, if you've never watched, if you're listening to this or watching this, if you've never seen the documentary, I think it's all on YouTube. There's a documentary series. It's a 4-part series called Everything is a Remix.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
Absolutely brilliant. I think the first one, well, I'm not even going to tell you what they're, but it's like he goes through film and music and all sorts of things.
It's like there are no brand new
There are no
ideas.
original thoughts. There are no original thoughts. Like, and that's fine. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? Like, everything is in conversation with everything else that we've had as a human species. And if we ever meet another sentient species and can converse with them, our culture from then on will be in conversation with theirs as well. So, like, that's just the way that it works. But in the story, I love the idea of Shakespeare being sort of a cover. And I also, again, he's warring with the same thing that we talked about with Adam earlier, where it's like, okay, I'm here at the end of my life and they don't know my name. Like, people don't remember Kit Marlowe.
Right.
Which is not true either. His works have also lasted the test of time. It's just not the body of work that's lasted.
Exactly.
But I mean,
it's not
there's
the
a Kit
first
Marlowe
name
joke
that comes
all in
to
this.
mind.
Yes, but there's a Kit Marlowe joke in this movie. The Adam uses Dr. Faust for his fake doctor get up, which is a Marlowe. The tragedy of Faustus is Marlowe. So anyway, I love that, and I love John Hurt. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen this before. I had seen John Hurt in a million things, of course, but this, I think it was this past December, maybe a year ago now, I finally watched for the first time Lion in Winter.
Oh, it's very good.
Was it no, I'm confusing them now. It's not the Lion in Winter that he's in. It's A Man for All Seasons that he's in, right? He's the one that rats out. Yes, John Hurt plays the guy that rats out Beckett in Man for All Seasons. Anyway, Thomas More. God, I'm conflating like 19 different pieces of English history here. Actually, they're going to ream me in the comments.
It's fine. It's articulate.
Hey, guys, John Hurt's an actor who's been around for a long time. He played a weasel in a very classic British film that you all probably have seen before, and I just watched recently for the first time, but I'm a big fan of it now, and a big fan of John's. So
big fan of
there
John
you go.
Hurt. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Let's talk about somebody who I do know all the works that they've been in. Jeffrey Wright. There we go. Let's go to him next.
Love him. Jeffrey Wright is always good value. I think that hiring him for your TV show or movie is always going to improve it.
I agree, man. I love how scared he is when Dr. Faust is standing by him. Jesus.
Yeah, like, just fucking don't sneak up on me. I would not enjoy that.
She's like, hey, can we arrange a regular thing?
Yeah, can we just you just come to my house at some point? Come on, like, Lord. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay.
We do a drop off in the parking lot or something. Or did Ashley say something?
No, she.
Hello.
Okay, Adam just laying around in his flat, so depressed that
depressed.
Eve feels it halfway around the world and calls him.
Oh my God. I love his wooden bullet though. Can I just oh my, what a wild ass tool
So
to kill yourself
fucking
for a vampire.
dramatic, man.
It is. It's so dramatic.
He's got a 6-foot stake in his foyer. I'm like, prop that up and fall on it, you dramatic asshole.
No, I'm gonna have someone make me a wooden bullet that I can fire into
Very
my
dense
chest.
wood. Here's a list of 4 or 5 to choose from.
Yeah. Not everything can hold up to the gunpowder. Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I love Tilda Swinton.
This was around the time that I noted, I would be a terrible hoarder if I was a vampire. Like when everyone's lounging around in their houses and they're laying in all these piles of fucking books, I was like, uh-oh, I would be in trouble, because that's a lot of time to accumulate shit that you think has a lot of meaning to you.
Okay, one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is when she finally says, okay, yes, first of all, she's like, why don't you come to Tangier?
Yeah, it's
There's great
here.
things happening. It's a lot of fun. You love the music.
It's not Detroit.
And then he's like, nothing. And she's like, okay, I'll come. It's just that travel is such a bitch. And I feel that in my bones. Ashley, when my baby sister and I lived together for a few years in college, and when we first moved apart, I had gotten married and I was living in a little apartment in town, and she was living in like the mobile home that she and I had shared outside of town. She would call us and be like, hey, why don't you guys come over? We'll play cards tonight, or we'll watch a movie or whatever. And I'd be like, it's so far over there.
Ugh.
And it was literally like a 5-minute drive across town.
Yeah.
When I lived in New Orleans, I would never see anyone because it's 30 minutes across town, no matter what time of day you're going. And sometimes it's an hour. And I'd be like, we'll do it next time. Don't even worry about it.
We'll pass each other in the night next time.
You listen, I mean, I guess for my soulmate, I'd come from Tangier, but I would also be bitching about it like Tilda was.
Right. Well, and she also has to take all night flights, like that's the flip side of it. She's like has to go through this woman has to use a travel agent because she's got to get these specific flights that are overnight.
Oh man, that reminded me. Now I've got to look up this flying movie. There's it's called Blood Red Sky. There's a movie on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
I have not.
I think it's either French or German. Maybe it's a foreign language film. I'm fairly certain. It's a European movie. But the idea is that there's a hijacking for a plane, and what the hijackers don't know is that one of the people on the plane is a vampire.
Oh shit! I love that. Oh,
it's real good.
I need to watch that. Holy shit!
It's a lot of fun. So this absolutely made me think of that with her booking her, like, I've got to both take off and land at night, and which, by the way, it made me wonder later they talk about it. What's in London that they both want to avoid?
Right, exactly.
She's like, no, London's no good.
What the Armand is in London, like.
Oh, the sister-in-law does something similar later in the film when she's like, are you still mad about that Paris thing? I was like, what? Like, did you burn down a theater?
Did you kill a whole coven?
Okay, but yes, you were talking about how they're both hoarders. My favorite moment of the movie probably is when Tilda is finally packing to go see Adam,
and
all she packs is books.
And she's reading them.
First of all, she reads everything, but then she's like, "Yes, this one is good. This one's good." But literally, she's got like 2 suitcases full, and it's her turntable and some records and her books. Yeah. And I'm like, but that makes so perfect. Like, if you're going to be thousands and thousands, if you're going to be around thousands and thousands of years, like, other stuff doesn't, all that matters are ideas, right? All that matters is art.
She's clothes in both houses, I'm sure. Like this isn't,
sure.
this isn't an unreasonable arrangement they have here. You know, like, I mean, I would pack books. I usually pack books.
But like neither one of them live in a mansion, right?
No. Oh,
they
no,
don't
no,
have
no.
fancy I mean, she has an iPhone and he's got all of his amps and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's all everything they have is in service to like art and culture
Yeah.
and leisure.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a communication device so that they can get what they need, you know?
Yes. Ordering that blood up. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to keep the good stuff. Just like, I'm like, plasma? What are we? The sweet nectar of the blood?
So okay, they use terms like wife throughout the film. Her name's Eve. They call her Mistress Mine, et cetera, et cetera. But Tilda played here like very androgynous as Eve. I loved it.
Yeah, she's
the husband in the relationship.
Right. It's a very interesting. She's always fun to watch. Like, I love her, but I was really struck by like the normalcy of this character. Like, she's just
got her shit together.
Yeah, she's just like she's a cool chick, man. Like, I wanted to hang out with her. Like, I would love to be friends with her, you know? Like, this is somebody you'd want to be like, let's go have some wine and get caught up on the tea, you know?
So that reads Pandora, don't you think? Right?
Yeah,
like the fact
very
that she's
much.
not interested in the drama and whatnot, generally.
Yeah. Just, well, like, what can we learn about what's next, you know? Like, I love that. Yeah, I liked her very much. And her look is incredible. I mean, that big mane of hair. She's just
so
gorgeous in this. Yeah, she's gorgeous in this.
Okay, so the other thing though that I noticed, all three of the main vamps, and it's true really for Kit as well, I guess. None of them look like they've seen a brush in years. Like they don't, right? They just wash the hair and it just like, dries
let it
how
fly.
it is.
Yeah, let it fly.
But again, I dig that. It's like, yes, actually, okay. I don't think I'd give a shit about like who. Obviously, they look fantastic. Why would you worry about? What are you worrying about attracting? Like your very existence attracts people. You know?
Right. I don't need a brush. I got other shit to do. I've got books to read. I don't need a brush. I got books to read. That's Ashley in a depressive state right there. I don't need a brush. I got books to read.
Let's talk about Anton Yelchin. So he plays Ian here in the film. He's kind of Adam's helper, his gopher.
Like assistant.
Anton passed away in 2016. He was great in a ton of things.
Like,
yeah,
the
man,
worst
I'd forgotten.
Fucking crazy freak accident. Like, got trapped between his car. And, like, this car came out of
and a
fucking
brick
gear.
pillar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
On his own, like literally coming out of his house, apparently, like to go somewhere.
It was so fucked up. So fucked up.
So I guess, noticed him first probably in the Star Trek reboot.
Star
He
Trek.
was Chekhov.
Yeah, that's when he got on my radar. But he had been around doing awesome shit even before that.
I was going to say, I think he was in something like, I want to say he was in something like About a Boy or A Boy's Life or something like that, where he was like one of the kids. I think he's been around since he was, 10 or 12 or something like that on film anyway. Okay, man, Tilda, I think I already said it, but she's got all the best lines in this whole fucking movie.
Yeah, the writing in this is very fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
When she first shows up to Adam's place and, they hug or whatever, and then he brings her in and they're lying on the couch and you just see in the room and she says, just deadpan, I love what you've done with the place. And of course, like, it's literally like guitar amps everywhere, like broken machinery, like shit on the floor. I do love all the thick ass rugs though. Everybody's got thick ass rugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone lounges very, like, beautifully. Like, everyone's sleeping in these very strange, like, geometric positions. I was like, what in the fuck is happening? That does not look comfortable.
Okay, no, but they do. It's so beautiful, though. All right, so we don't see them make love after they first get back together.
No.
But we see them in bed. They're both naked, and they're lying. Again, it's shot from overhead, like that opening shot of them spinning, but it's the two of them in, like, a yin-yang symbol.
Yeah. It's
so
really
lovely.
Yeah, I mean, this is fucking really well done. Plenty of beautiful things to look at in this film.
Adam handles losing at chess a lot better than Lestat does.
Oh, yes. No one got murdered there.
What did you think about? I love how they refer to everything with its scientific name. Like they'll grab a piece of plant and then immediately call it by its Latin name.
Yeah, it's like a show off, But I guess maybe that's how they know it. Maybe they don't use the common name.
I think it's because they've done it across civilizations, right, and societies. They've been like, yeah, I was using this in Rome, so I needed to call it what they called it, and I was using it in Great Britain. I needed to call it what they call. Everybody knows it when I call it this,
Right.
I say that. I don't think that's been around since Roman times. They just used Latin because that was the language of science, right? I don't know when taxonomy came into place, Ashley, but anyway, they're into it.
Maybe someone will tell us. I guarantee you one of our brilliant fans is into that and does know exactly when that happened.
I love the idea, and I'm skipping a couple of notes here, but I love Adam's collection of geniuses. She mentions at first, I think, how you loved your scientists, and he's like, yeah, and he lists off 3 or 4 that something terrible happened to. But then when she's alone in the apartment, she's looking, and he's got this whole wall that's just filled with portraits of geniuses that he fell in love with. It's amazing. When I get a studio, I'm going to replicate it on one side of the studio. I was like, yes, I'm hanging
my wall
all my
of
geniuses, actually. Yes.
I love it.
Okay. So obviously there were a bunch of scientists and a bunch of old-timey people that I do not recognize by photo. I'll be frank with you. But I saw Frank Zappa was an interesting one. I saw Rodney Dangerfield was the one I laughed at the most.
Hilarious. That is
There's
hilarious.
Oscar Wilde over on the right next to Marlowe.
Oh.
Jimi Hendrix was below him. Neil Young was there too. And then I think above Neil Young was Etta James. And then Hank Williams was above her. It's a good wall.
It's a very good wall. That's a respectful wall.
Yeah.
A respectable wall,
Okay, so the freeloading sister shows up.
Yes.
Ruins their good time. So she's played by Mia Wasikowska. I recognized her. I wasn't sure what I knew her from.
She was in those Alice in Wonderland movies, yeah?
That's it. She's Alice from the new Disney remakes, yeah. She was also in Crimson Peak with Tom Hiddleston. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's a good one. I think that's a Guillermo del Toro movie, I think. But yeah, the line here, Tilda said, and again, she's got great ones all throughout, but she says it's always a bit weird with family.
Yeah. And this is her train wreck of a little sister that she has to take care of every time she goes off the fucking rails, apparently.
I mean, and so right off the bat, she's going to be trouble because like we already said, she mentions, are you still mad about the Paris thing? Like, so she fucked something up bad 85 years ago and they haven't spoken basically.
There's an energy coming off this type of person that when you see them, you just know there's going to be some fuckery ahead. You're like, oh God. And you have to deal with them because of whatever reason, because your connection to them is whatever it is. And you're just like, okay, what is it this time? God bless.
Give me the strength to change the things I can and the
brace
wisdom
yourself.
to know the things I can or whatever.
Brace yourself for the fuckery that's ahead.
And man, like just continuing levels of fuckery. First, she drinks up their supply. Like he just went and got some fresh blood for him and Eve.
And enough, like they're set for a bit. They're supposed to be set for a bit.
She guzzles that shit.
Yeah. They try to not tell her, like, this is the real, like, this is when the addict stuff really kind of hit me in the head, because it was like, they don't want to tell her where they keep it. They don't want her to know where it's hidden. They certainly wouldn't want her to know who their supplier is, because you don't want to fuck that relationship up. I was like, oh God, this girl is a mess, clearly.
Okay, like I said, I've never had a substance abuse problem, and I've never had a sibling or somebody come over and try to use me like that. But I have smoked a lot of pot in my life, and I've had access to it when friends didn't. And I have for sure had the person who can smell it from across town and show, hey man, what y'all doing today?
What you doing? You mind if I drop by, just hang out a little bit?
Trying to smoke this weed by myself is what I was trying to do.
I want to see her in my underwear and get a little high. What the hell? That is so accurate. That's very accurate.
So it's already off the rails from go with this girl.
Right.
But as soon as they go to the bar and Ian's with them, I immediately was like, oh, Ian's going to be a vampire at best, but I don't think he's going to make it, actually.
No.
I don't think that's the way it's going to work.
It sure isn't how it worked. He was sure dead as fuck on that couch. I was like,
real.
I was like, did they kill that man? Is that man actually dead?
I will say the pale makeup is better in this film, I think, than I don't know when I've seen a better one, honestly.
It was real
it's super
ghastly.
consistent. And also there were gradations of it, right? Like there was healthy pale, and then there was sickly, need a fix pale. Really, really good differences there.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they have to take care of Ian, they get the sister to fuck off. I love it when they literally just throw her shit out the front door.
Like, go on, get. Which is clearly something that's happened before. Like, she's like...
Yeah, it happened
pissed.
85 years ago in Paris. They threw her shit out the front door.
87 years.
87, there you go.
Yeah.
So, but they get that done, and then Eve's like, do you have a bit of carpet? We'll roll this fella up. First of all, it's interesting to me because they ride around for a while, and the way that the conversation is going, it's like Adam isn't for sure what they're going to do yet either. But then he seems to know exactly where the fuck this acid...
Where the vat of acid is. Like, convenient vat of acid. Thanks, Detroit.
I didn't understand it at first. I thought this was like, hey, there's like a sinkhole under this like abandoned building. We're going to just dump him down in this water or whatever it'll be. You know, gators will eat him. There's not gators in Detroit, but you know what I mean.
Dude, that's how you know you can hide a body in Louisiana pretty easily. You know, you're like, the gators, you know.
I saw a reel the other day. This woman was like, how to tell if there are alligators in the water, in the body of water that you're looking at. And she's like, she walks down to the edge and she like puts her fingers in it. She goes, is it wet? And then there's gators in there.
Gators in that. Yep.
There's snakes in there too.
Snakes and gators.
Yeah, that's why, like, honestly, that was the part of Interview with the Vampire, the TV series, that was unrealistic. If Claudia had thrown all those bodies in the bayou, they wouldn't have lasted that long. It wouldn't have been a problem.
No, that would not have been an issue. That would not.
Missing persons are gone persons in South Louisiana.
Yeah, you're not finding that body. No body, no crime.
So, but in Detroit, we need a conveniently placed vat of acid, which there was one. Good,
and that was
job.
a hell of a good melting. I was like, ooh, good Lord. Very well done.
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, man.
Yeah,
like the power of God melted that bad boy right down. But then Tilda again, great line. She goes, that was certainly visual.
Yes. And it was. It was very good.
Okay, so the music when they head to Tangier, because now they've killed Ian. That first of all, they don't have a supply, but also, or I mean, they do have a supply, but they're worried about the body. Like killing people in the 20th century is not kosher. Or 21st century.
Not a cute look. You're gonna get caught.
So we got to get out of town. So they fly back to Tangier, and the music when they start is I'm assuming local music. It's from Tangier, and it's like very, very cool. But that made me write the note. But this whole soundtrack is dope. The needle drop at the top when they're doing the spinning thing is really, really cool. And there's several throughout.
The sound in general, the sound design was pretty fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
There was a point at the beginning where there was this like high-pitched whine happening. And I was like...
What?
Trying to... I paused it and I was like, is that in the show? Is that the movie? And then I was like, is that my fan? Is that... I'm like, what's that noise coming from? Like, it was just really like off-putting and like, and like kind of set me off a little bit, like in a way. And I was like, that anytime a sound is able to achieve that kind of like visceral response from me, I'm very into it. And even if I hate it, even if I hated the sound, you know?
That's one of the reasons, honestly, why I think I like watching movies with headphones in. I mean, don't get me, I've got a nice pair of headphones. They're AirPods Pro or whatever. They've got the surround sound thing that they do. But it's better even than watching with surround sound, as long as you're alone, right? If you're going to share it with somebody, you need to not be.
Right, that's a dick move.
But it's better for that specific reason, because like when something like that is supposed to captivate your attention and literally cause you to wonder, like, is that what? Here? You do the freaking prairie dog thing, like, Is that siren in my room?
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't you love that when music would do that? I love that in the 90s they did it all the time.
Oh,
You'd have a rap song, and then all of a sudden there'd be a siren, and you'd be blasting that shit in your car, and then immediately turn it down and like, where's the cop? Where's the cop?
Do I need to pull over for emergency vehicle?
Fuck you, Tupac. It was on the song. Damn it.
Oh, I love
Ruined
it.
my buzz. Okay, so let's talk about the vampire powers, how they work. In this world. First of all, I love that this movie is not concerned at all with that shit. They don't talk about how
they get
would
made?
you create one?
Yeah.
Where did these come from?
Where did they
how
come
old
from?
are Adam and Eve?
We don't care.
Are they the first ones? Their names are Adam and Eve? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but that could just be the names. I don't know. They didn't tell us.
That's not what this movie's about, right? That's not what this story is, and I love it. But let's talk about it a little bit because that's who we are.
That's what we like. All right.
My assumption is that it's only because they are microdosing that they're always like right on the edge of needing a fix. I think that's their deal.
Yeah, well, it seems like they're at a point where they're not feeding.
Right.
Like, they're not feeding the way they should. Like, we know vampires should be drinking blood, and they're not really, they're doing that on a very, very small, like, just enough to get them by, to get them through, it feels like.
Yes. And I think that's why when their supply is cut off in that way, it's a real issue, like right away.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, Louis is young, and in the books, he needs to he needs to drink every night.
Right.
And he talks about he could do 3 or 4 small drinks and not have to kill if he wanted to. But, I mean, when he starts killing cats, he has to kill a lot of cats to cover
we're going to
it.
have to eat a lot of birds and rats and cats.
But anyway, I think that's the problem. And I love the fact that they made this about addiction. When we talked about Dracula, the Bram Stoker's Dracula, that movie was really about like STDs and sexually transmitted diseases. This movie is really about addiction, and the connection is, as I said before, it's heroin addiction. Basically, is the way that I took it, because there's nothing else that I'm aware of anyway that has this same like downward spiral, like the closer you get to the edge, the more they need, and the faster it's all going to fall apart for them.
Yeah. I mean, at least like in the cultural zeitgeist, that heroin's what you think of when you think of something like that. I'm sure opioids will get you there.
Good call.
Pills and things, they're cousins.
I did not expect Kit Marlowe to die. This
I didn't
was
either.
not on my radar.
He got bad blood, and that was interesting to me. I was like, bad blood, ooh.
Well, okay, and it's sort of interesting to me.
He got a fucking bad supply.
This idea of like weak blood and pure blood or strong blood or whatever, it's not really in Anne's books. As a matter of fact, like I think she's pretty clear in the books that it doesn't matter what your blood is, my vampiric blood's going to process it. Yeah. But I think it's interesting here, and like maybe that's why he was so much older anyway. Like maybe he hadn't had a good supply or had spent time when he drank bad blood. Like why is he aged? Was my question. I'm assuming he lived the normal human life of Kit Marlowe. Right. They faked his death in the pub, right? He got shot or stabbed in a pub, I guess, or something. Stabbed, yeah. Got stabbed in a pub. Yeah, that was before guns, I guess, probably. Stabbed in a pub and killed in a pub at like 27 or something like that. But the idea is here he went on and was writing all the Shakespeare stuff from behind the scenes.
Right.
But like at what time did he turn into old man John Hurt?
Yeah. When like what point did he become a vampire then?
Yeah.
Like, but they don't tell us any of that. We're left to wonder.
And again, it's not important to this story, but it does make me wonder just as a person.
There's a beautiful shot when they're with him and he's dying. Of them like around him. It was just beautiful. It was just beautiful and very intimate and very, it was like paying tribute to a friend that you're a long loved friend that you're losing.
Well, and I love the relationship that we see between the three of them.
Yeah.
We don't really see him with Adam except for there at his death, but we hear about him and Adam, and the implication that I got was that it was Adam that found him and fell in love with him first. Mm-hmm. and the friendship that Kit and Eve have developed is almost sort of like founded on their love of Adam, right? They both orbit around Adam in some way, and they have developed a friendship that started from that root is the way that it felt like to me. And I love that idea. You know, it's like, I've got long-term friends who have deep relationships with my wife, for instance, right? And that's a cool thing to have.
Yeah,
or I have good long relationships. I think about Ali Gilbert, Bennett. You know, Richard Bennett is my best friend, but Ali and I have known each other actually longer than Richard and I have known each other, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love that.
Anyway.
I love
those. Are sweet. You got to hang on to those.
Yeah, it's things that you see in your real life that it's nice to see reflected in art, in a film, in a show, in whatever, you know. It just makes it easier to connect to.
Man, I was worried for a minute that they were going to eat this singer that starts captivating Adam's attention right after the funeral. So I had to look her up. Her name is Yasmine Hamdan. She is an actual singer-songwriter from Lebanon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
She's the one that draws. Yeah, beautiful. And the song was really lovely, too.
Oh, my gosh.
She draws Adam's attention, though, over while Eve was looking for the present. And I just thought it was interesting that they basically put a little music video here at the end of the movie, right? Like, let's just highlight this cool artist.
Yeah. Well, yes, does that. It also just reminds you of like what captivates and drives these characters, you know, even though they're in this situation where they are, you know, needing to hit real bad, they're still going to take the time to like enjoy the beauty that's around them.
I'm going to insert this here. David Brown in the Facebook group commented on, he posted about Midnight Mass. He was wondering when we're going to start covering that, which, by the way, we do start Midnight Mass in 2 weeks. We'll do the epilogue of Vampire Lestat next week, and then after that, we'll go to Midnight Mass, and that'll be 7 episodes we cover the Netflix series. I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, in the comments under that, he put this. He said, okay, I just watched Only Lovers Left Alive. I didn't realize it was partially shot in Detroit. I live in Detroit and have been back here since 2011. So he was there when the movie was shot, probably. He said, the city has changed drastically since then. That neighborhood where Adam lives is one of the most beautiful, expensive, and modern neighborhoods now. Only 3 or 4 blocks from all the major sports teams with new developments, walking distance to downtown, etc. The entire city has a new lighting system since then. They've demolished thousands of abandoned buildings and new construction is everywhere. There's plenty of old factories left that need rehab or demo. He says, I love how he suggests, let's go to the Motown Museum, lol. It still does have its grit, though. I love how Eve says, I like this city. The city will come back because they have so much water. She was right. In the 10 years since that movie was made, the city's made an unbelievable comeback, and it's still going. Looking forward to you guys' review.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Eve mentions she's not worried about Detroit. The city will come back. They have plenty of water. She says, when the southern cities are burning, this city will bloom. And man, as 2 people who live in some of those southern cities, Ashley, what's your temperature's been lately?
Oh, been real bad, Joel. It's been real bad.
We had feel like of 115 for a week straight. Now I will say we're currently in a break. It's rained like 2 days in a row.
Yes.
It's pretty
lovely.
nice now.
I can see outside my window that there's not the haze of humidity like coming through to ruin my day.
But you know, there's that great they used The Simpsons. There's that great meme of The Simpsons where Homer's like leaning down to talk to Bart, and Bart says, "This is the hottest summer of my life."
Oh.
And he goes, "No, this is the coolest summer of the rest of your life."
Yes, that is really what it feels like to live in the South right now. And I had 2 days ago, Joel, it was really fucking hot here. And I always have, I don't know why I do this to myself. It's to make myself angry, I think. But I always, on the Weather Channel, I have Little Rock as a saved city. I have New Orleans as a saved city. And I have Orlando as a saved city. And the number of days that it's been hotter in Little Rock than it's been in New Orleans and also in Orlando have been enough to make me say, fuck it, I should just move to New Orleans.
You should at least get closer to a water source.
If I'm going to be this hot, I might as well be at Disney World, you know?
Yeah, might as well be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Little Rock. Lots of fun stuff to do in
love
Little Rock,
it.
too.
Little Rock's fantastic. I love my city. It's beautiful. It's historic. It's fantastic.
It
I
ain't
love
New Orleans, though.
It's not New Orleans. It is
And
not.
it don't have Disney World.
And it doesn't
so,
have Disney
you know.
World, which I love. My first job out of college was Disney. I don't think I've ever shared that on this podcast.
No, I don't think you have specifically. We have talked about.
We do talk Disney because we love
we talked
it.
about you doing. We talked about you doing a character recently. I think. I actually.
I think it was offline.
That might have been in the green room before we came on. Yeah, good call.
We were talking about that.
So we talked about earlier. Adam's love of scientists, but let's talk about the idea. Oh, I didn't mention this. Let's mention it here. I didn't realize that the first 2 or 3 times he cranked it up, his car is some sort of electric vehicle.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
Yes. And it says on Wikipedia, it said that it was supposed to be powered by like Tesla designed shit, which is fantastic.
The thing where he's like pulling power out of the. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have gone down this rabbit hole before. One of the many things that there are like conspiracy theories about online is that Tesla had a free energy technology where you literally pull electric information, just as Adam talks about it in this film. He's talking about his generator that runs the house when he does this. But he says it pulls electrical information out of the atmosphere, converts that into energy, and you've got like a turbine basically that's running, and that's what's powering all of your stuff. Lots of people genuinely believe that Tesla had that all figured out and was working,
right,
120 years ago or whatever, and that it just got stolen because Westinghouse and or not Westinghouse was on Tesla's side. The other guy, what was his name? Edison. Yeah, Edison was a real dickhead, and so we don't have free power.
real thief of Tesla's work there.
Edison was a real dickhead, and I do think probably that if Tesla had been allowed the resources and the clearance or whatever and the mainstream attention that Edison got, we might be further along on all that right now. I don't think there's actually like a free energy source out there that you guys just need to figure out how to hook up the wires for. But Adam has it running in his apartment or in his house and his car. Good for Adam. I love that though. But here's what I really wanted to talk about: spooky action at a distance. There's it's an Einstein theory, which Adam points out it's not a theory. It's been proven, which I didn't realize. And I did think that it was connected to like quantum mechanics. And I guess it is in some ways. It's sort of like the beginnings of quantum physics. But this idea that two particles are, once they're entangled, even if you move them to opposite sides of the universe, if you do something to one, it'll affect the other particle as well. That's true. This is the basis for the teleporter. Like we'll eventually get a transportation system like Star Trek if we follow this down the line. That's the idea, right? God, I'd love. See, there you wouldn't be a problem. You could look at that weather app, Ashley, and be like, I'm just going to go to Orlando.
I would rather be somewhere else than here right now.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. But anyway, this theory, this idea, this scientific truth is brought up a few times throughout the movie. But I love that it's effectively just the thesis for this movie, right? Mm-hmm. Like these two people.
Yeah.
Have spooky action at a distance.
Yes, they do. Yeah, because you're just that connected over time and through time and space.
It's really lovely. It's a really lovely thought.
And you've had enough of an impact on each other's at a molecular level that your cells recognize each other at a great distance.
And I mean, we joked earlier about Adam being so depressed that Eve felt it on the opposite side of the world and called him. But I mean, haven't you ever had that happen in your life? You're like, I need to call my sister.
100%. Yeah, those vibes, like we have that, like we have those senses built into ourselves. We're just kind of programmed now in this modern time to kind of ignore it, But you're like, everyone's like, oh, I kind of got a weird feeling this day. And so I drove this different route to work. And it turns out there was a terrible accident that I would have been in the middle of if I had driven my usual route, Got to listen to that.
There's just a bunch of I think about the ones that I've heard. There's several that I've read the personal stories of people that missed 9/11.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They were late in one way or another that morning.
Yeah. Like there was a playoff game for some sport. I can't remember if it was like baseball or what it was, but there was a playoff game that night, the night before that ran late, had some OT or something. And so a lot of people overslept.
And all of those people are alive or were alive, the next day.
Had too many beers and was like, maybe I'm going to call in sick today.
Spooky
I love it.
action at a distance. It's not a double entendre. It's not dirty. It's about science.
It's fucking
romance
science.
And fate. There you go. Man, I love this movie. Thank you to everybody. I have no idea how popular this episode is going to be, by the way, because this is a niche film in comparison, I think, even to all of the ones that we've done so far. But if you haven't seen this movie and you've listened to all of this, we haven't spoiled anything for you. It is very much about the vibes and the visuals. So go and watch it. It's really, really good.
It's fantastic. Like I cannot recommend it enough. I'm going to definitely mention it to like my film nerd friends this next week and see if any of them have seen it, because I don't know why or how I missed this movie, but I'm glad we found it. And thanks to everybody that recommended it. Y'all weren't lying. This was fucking great.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's do a little business here. First and foremost, we do have a Patreon now. If you would like to support the show in some way and you are in a financial position to do so, you can go to articulatecoven.com/join and join it there. You'll get access to all of our videos, our YouTube videos. You'll get those a week early. Our episodes for the podcast, you'll get a day early. So this one will go up on Sunday for patrons and on Monday for regular viewers and listeners on YouTube and the podcast apps. But the other thing, though, that I want to point people's attention to is if you are a patron or you want to be a patron, you've got an opportunity over the next few weeks to give us some feedback on a couple of specific things. We're going to do TVL wrap up next week with the epilogues. Then after that, we'll start Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass is 7 episodes long, so that'll take us into the end of October. We'll be, I think it's like October 29th, actually, is like the last episode, or the 22nd, maybe.
Spooky season, y'all.
Exactly. Now, the next episode after that, it will actually come out on November 3rd, I think, for regular listeners. And that will be our episode covering the new Salem's Lot that's going to be on Max. We're going to talk about Salem's Lot. I'm very excited. I just finished the book again. It's my reread of the book.
I actually got a message from Derek yesterday. Derek George, I think. He's reading it. And he was like, holy shit. He got to a part that he was like, what? So we were talking about it yesterday. That book is great. It's so much fun.
I'm gonna do a full video. I'm gonna do one of my Anne Rice verses about Salem's Lot. And I'm going to talk about this at length in the video, but man, I was just struck. I just did the Brian Lumley, the first 3 books in the Brian Lumley series, the Necroscope series. I did some Anita Blake, which is Laurel K. Hamilton's vampire series. I did some of those recently too. And the difference between those series, which are good books, very thoroughly enjoyable books, great stories, and Anne Rice's work, or Stephen King's work, which is great literature. There is a difference. And it's not shade at good books. Good books are wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why Stephen King, I genuinely think this Salem's Lot novel, if it didn't have vampires in it, we'd be talking about Stephen King like he's the next Steinbeck. He could have written straight dramas and tragedies and just stories about people.
Yeah.
And I think it still would have been captivating. The stuff that's best in Salem's Lot is the stuff about the village. Yeah. It's just the stuff about the town. It's not about the vampires. Although the vampires are cool too.
Yeah, that's the thing with his stuff though. It's the monsters are always the people, Man.
There's a chapter halfway in where he just like unpacks the town for you. And anyway, fantastic book. Yeah, looking forward to that new adaptation. So we're going to do that at the very beginning of November. That'll give everybody a chance to see it. I'm not sure exactly when it drops in October, but it'll drop in time for Halloween. So you get a couple of weeks to watch it, and then you can do our episode. After that, though, we're going to go into a new book club series. We're going to do Blood and Gold, the Marius book. It's about the vampire Marius. I am too. The main reason why we chose this book, honestly, is because Marius is the one new character who has a book in existence about them that we haven't covered yet. But Marius is going to be introduced in season 3 of Interview with the Vampire. So we know he's about to be cast, honestly, sometime soon.
I can't wait. I'm so excited to find out who's going to be Marius.
I mean, by the time we get to the book club, we may have casting announcements because they'll be filming already this fall. So let's cross our fingers for that. But in between those book club episodes, we're going to have 4 movie nights leading up to, so that'll be between Halloween and New Year's Eve. Okay. And that means that you, as a patron at the $5 level, will have an opportunity to vote on each one of those movie nights. If you're at the $10 level, you'll have an opportunity to suggest one to us. So if you're already a patron and you're at one of those levels, or if you're a patron at $2 level and you'd like to bump up and make some votes, there you go. Go sign up at articulatecoven.com/join and let us know what you'd like us to cover in those upcoming episodes. So there we go. That's all the business out of the way. Fun stuff coming ahead as we cover the Vampire Lestat parts. No, we've already done all the parts. We're going to do the epilogue.
Epilogues. Yep. We're going to finish that bad boy up.
And then we're going over to Netflix. That's right. We're taking our talents to South Beach.
We're taking our talents to Netflix. No, I'm so excited. I actually started a casual rewatch of it this week. To have
That's
on
the way to do it.
while I'm working.
Okay, so I was waiting until I had seen this, but now that I've seen this, my plan honestly this weekend is to probably watch episodes 1 and 2 or 1, 2, and 3, depending upon my time, and then I'll go back and do my rewatch to make notes. But
yes,
I saw somebody post about they called them obnoxious monologues in Midnight Mass. It is word heavy. It is very much a talker.
Well, and he was a monologuer. Like Flanagan, yes. He likes a monologue. He likes his characters to tell us what's up.
But I think if you read Salem's Lot, which I was just talking about, like a lot of those characters speak in monologue at times, and it's about this grandiose, well, here's what the world used to be, and here's how we're going to make it again, whatever. I think there is you can raise the dialogue, you can raise the level of dialogue, I should say, and sometimes putting it in that sort of like opining formula is the way to get you there. But I mean, there's a lot of monologues in Shakespeare too. Folks seem to like that.
As long as the actor performing it is engaging, I'm here for your monologues.
Oh, I'm with you. All right. That is it for this week. Thank you to everybody who makes these videos possible, our patrons especially, including the Queen of the Damned, Nancee Ward, especially.
Yes,
thank you.
Love you, Nancee.
And until we are back next week. Yes.
There's
what did I miss?
There's my Vampire Lestat.
Oh.
From Mendi. Just wanted to give that a little shout out. Also, shout out to my hubby who put together my little podcasting nook.
That it's really, really cool, by the way. I'm very jealous, honestly. As to merch and to fan items, you have another one on the way. I got mine. I started to wear it actually, and I said I'm going to wait.
Oh, because it'll be
until Ashley
for me.
gets hers. Yes. So
I'm
you'll
so
get
excited.
yours, I think, on Tuesday. So the next time we record, we'll probably be wearing matching shirts.
Let's wear our matching shirts.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, and we'll tell you all about that in next episode. Thank you to the unnamed listener who sent those. All right. We'll be back with you soon. Until the next time we talk to you, we've been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven.
Thanks for listening to The Articulate Coven. If you enjoyed the show, check out our groups on Facebook and Discord. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Or find us at articulatecoven.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Bye.